Chapter 8. The Marquis is racing through the countryside that he starved half to death. The village is barren and there are no kids nor animals. He stops by a road mender who he noticed was staring at his carriage. The road mender explains that he saw someone hanging on the bottom of his carriage, but then jumped off into the fields earlier. The Marquis leaves, and as he's on his way to the estate, a woman stops him and asks him for a grave marker for her husband, who died of hunger. Although the Marquis is able to fulfill his task and better the people's lifestyle, he denied the woman's request. The Marquis arrives at his luxurious estate and waits for his nephew Charles Darnay to come. Darnay arrives, and he says that he has been questing for a sacred object, Lucy's love, but he ran into trouble, his aristocratic background. The Marquis ignores this and complains how the aristocracy's power has been waning. Darnay says that his aristocratic family is destroying the people, and he noted that his mother once told him to show the people mercy. Darnay gives up his aristocratic title, and he tells his uncle that he will work in England and stay with an English doctor and his daughter. The Marquis tells him to ignore his philosophy of his, and to just accept his natural destiny. The next morning he was found stabbed in the chest with a note signed Jacques. 1 year later, Darnay works as a French teacher in London. He went to visit Dr. Manette and he told him of his plans to marry Lucy. Dr. Manette was worried about this because he didn't want his and Lucy's relationship to be strained, but Darnay tells him that he just plans to bind them closer together. Dr. Manette suspects that Shriver and Carton also want to marry Lucy, but he promises to vouch for Darnay if Lucy should ever ask. Out of gratitude, Darnay offers to tell Dr. Manette his real name, but Dr. Manette says to save it for the morning of the wedding, not before. That night, Lucy found her father making shoes. Shriver tells Carton of his plans to marry. He berates Carton for acting strange around the Manettes. He tells Carton that he tries to get along with people to get him ahead in the world. Then he tells Carton that he plans to marry Lucy so that she could be his trophy wife. Carton drinks heavily. Shriver tells Carton to go marry some wealthy woman. Shriver is on his way to Manette's house to propose, and he stops by Tellson's bank. He tells Laurie of his plans to propose, but Laurie tells him not to embarrass himself. Shriver is insulted, and he says that no girl would ever want to deny him. Laurie tells him that he will ask the Manettes of their opinion on Shriver, and he will come back to tell Shriver if it is okay to ask. Shriver waits, and when Laurie comes back, he tells him that he doesn't want to marry Lucy anymore. He says that Lucy is vain and empty-headed like most girls. Carton likes to visit the Manettes often. Now that Shriver doesn't want to marry Lucy anymore, Carton decided to have a private conversation with Lucy. There, he broke down into tears and told her that he had wasted his life. Lucy asked if she could help, but Carton says that his life was over a long time ago. He tells Lucy of his love, but tells her not to love him back because that would just make her miserable. He asks Lucy if there is some level of humanity left in him to pity, and Lucy says yes. Carton tells Lucy that he'd give up his life for her and her family. Outside of Tellson's bank, Jerry Cruncher and his son watch an approaching funeral procession where an angry crowd shouts spies. The hearse carried the body of Roger Cly, a convicted spy against the English. The mob buries Cly with mock ceremony, and then they go to the pub to party until the police shuts it down. That night, Jerry's son secretly follows his father. His father told him he was going fishing, but Jerry saw him with a crowbar and a rope. When he sees his father digging up the body of Roger Cly, he runs home and has visions of Cly's coffin chasing him. The next morning, Jerry Cruncher was mad that Cly's body was missing, and he yelled at his wife for praying against him, saying that it interfered with his honest work. Jerry's son asks him what a resurrection man is, and Jerry says, I don't know. Jerry's son tells him that he wants to be a resurrection man, and Jerry is secretly proud. A resurrection man, or grave robber, digs up bodies to sell to doctors for research.